Hello? I'm a man in my mid-30s. I'm reminded of a story from my early 20s. I had a close friend during my adolescence. We were in the same class throughout middle school and graduated from the same high school. I'm going to share a secret story about that friend. We became desk mates in middle school. I didn't know at first, but I later found out that his father wasn't around. My friend was always cheerful and bright. He was an average student in our class. I also had similar grades. We got along well in terms of personality. We visited each other's houses, and his house was much nicer than ours. I remember the first time I went to his house. There were family photos in the living room, and noticeably many photos of his father in the master bedroom. His father's smiling face looked really nice. My father is a quiet type who doesn't express his affection much. I asked my friend about his relationship with his father. He said, "I don't have a father." I was taken aback. No father? Living alone with his mother at such a young age? It struck me as odd. My friend briefly mentioned that his father had passed away in an accident. His mother was quite a beauty, tall and slim. She was quite different from my mother. As I was looking around the house, his mother brought me a sandwich and juice. My mother is a bit rough around the edges, but his mother seemed kind and dignified. Sitting in the living room, she asked me various questions and hoped that we could remain good friends. By the way, I heard that she gave science tutoring at home. If I had any questions while studying, she told me to mark them and ask her when I visited. I said okay. I had a great time at my friend's house that day. When I got home, I told my mother about it. I told her, "Mom, I've been getting along with a friend recently, and his mom does science tutoring at home." She said I could ask her anything if I don't understand. My mother said, "Really? She's a kind woman. Take this opportunity to try to get into the top tier." After that day, my friend and I made a plan. We decided to take studying seriously. We agreed to stay away from our phones, attend cram school diligently, and take short breaks on weekends to clear our heads. Our grades started to improve little by little, and we were capable of applying to a high school known for its academic excellence. However, students who were much better at studying than us were accepted. We were assigned to a high school near our homes and began our grueling study journey. As adults say, it's hard to improve your grades in high school. We studied with all our might. Sometimes we went to his house to learn from his mother. She was a famous tutor in our neighborhood, known even across the river. Students flocked to their house, to the point where their doorstep was worn out, especially on weekends. I ended up attending the university I wanted, and my friend went to a pretty good school. Although it was far from home, that time, it felt like I had the world at my fingertips. My friend's mother invited us to a party at their house. I brought a small gift my mother had prepared, which was some beef for grilling. It was a token of gratitude for her tutoring efforts. She laughed at the gift and told us to enjoy ourselves and stay over for the night. They had a projector installed at their house, as she enjoyed watching movies at home. That day, she played a nostalgic romance movie for us. We kept falling asleep and waking up during the movie. Of course, she watched it with us. My friend ended up sleeping on the sofa. His mother was seriously watching the movie. There was a somewhat sad scene, and I happened to wake up during it. She was wiping her tears with a tissue. I asked, "Is this movie very sad?" "I fell asleep and missed some parts." She showed tears, saying she was reminded of her late husband, and I gently held her hand to comfort her. My friend started living alone since his university was far away, and at first he came home often, but as he got used to his new life, he rarely came home. I also got busy with my part-time job and didn't get to see my friend as often. One day, I ran into his mother at the local supermarket. She was still a beautiful woman, and she seemed glad to see me. She said it was lonely living alone without her son, and invited me over for a meal before we parted. A few days later, she called to invite me over to watch a movie she recently enjoyed while having dinner. She said she never gets tired of watching the same movie several times. I felt uncomfortable going over to their house without my friend, but I couldn't refuse an adult's invitation and brought some strawberries to their house. She had prepared an excessive amount of food. When I asked if she always ate like this, she said no, that she cooked depending on her mood that day. The meal she prepared was really delicious. She asked me about my university life, and I said it was awkward since I was only a freshman, but it was nice to have more free time compared to high school. She offered me a drink, and I took a sip and continued the conversation. When I asked her, "Do you have a boyfriend?" she said she met a man a few times who was introduced by one of her students' parents. He was polite, but she couldn't figure him out. She wasn't sure if she should continue to see him as a friend or as a potential partner. His business address turned out to be non-existent when she looked it up. I told her it's best not to date a man full of bluff and lies, even though I don't know much about it. She said she could live alone like this, but in reality, it was very lonely. Then she looked at me and asked, "Can you help me?" I didn't understand what she meant at first, so I couldn't answer. Seeing my hesitation, she gave me a big grin. That's when I realized her intention, and I awkwardly excused myself. After that day, I kept in touch with her occasionally. In fact, I contacted her more often. I couldn't tell anyone about our love relationship, especially not my friend. When my friend finished his freshman year and left for the military, his mother cried sorrowfully. I eased her loneliness with a blazing love. Can you imagine a relationship between a young man in his early 20s and a woman in her late 40s? At that time, I didn't have a girlfriend and had no interest in women. It was hard to find a woman as sophisticated, quiet, and feminine as her. Of course, there are good things about young girls my age, but it was not easy to find a woman who can converse and understand as broadly as she can from my perspective. She called me around her tutoring schedule, and I prioritized her over everything else. She said she had broken up with the man she was seeing. I was attracted to her because she looked beautiful. When she said she broke up with him and found me, a young man, more attractive, even though he had shown his feelings with gifts. She said her friends clearly divided when she became alone. She said some friends cut off contact when she became a widow. I heard later that they drew the line first, fearing she might ask for help, but she had the ability to stand on her own and had no reason to ask for help. Yet, she said she deleted all the contacts of those friends who drew the line, creating a situation where they were not ignoring her. And among the remaining friends, some interfered too much in her life. Especially, she was hurt by people who casually told her that a woman cannot live alone. She should get married soon, pretending to know her feelings. But she said she fell for me because I listened to her words. I showed maturity beyond my age. I planned a drive with her on a holiday. We took the highway to the seaside, and she screamed in joy like a child. She hadn't had the time to go out because of housework and tutoring, and she was happy to have such a luxury thanks to me. We checked into a motel with a view of the sea. She said she had been to such a place when she dated her husband and was happy to be back after a long time. She was in a very good mood that day, made noises she had never made at home, and we were able to have a good time several times because it was not a risky day. I had a good time with her until my mid-20s. When I went to the military, she brought me my favorite food, and I ate it shyly. When I heard the news that she had become a star in the sky due to an accident on the highway, when I was about to return to school after being discharged from the military, I cried a lot. I visit the charnel house where her ashes are enshrined whenever I think of her, who was always warm to me and shyly called me her husband. May you rest in peace in heaven.